up and through closing. So I'm just going to go to the next slide here. Oh, we're going to let Nicole talk about this, but many times you're going to have a real estate team. So realtors, we're working with our buyers and their lenders. So I'll let Nicole take that. So finding the right home location is usually the first thing someone thinks of. Where do I want to live? It might be a specific town, it might be a specific neighborhood in a specific town. Your price is important. It's going to go based off of your mortgage pre-approval. Again, you know, of course, you're going to love a $300,000 house, but you may only be qualified to purchase 200. So my suggestion would just be is stick with what is within your realm. I always joke around and say, I want to buy a BMW, but I drive a Honda Accord. Kind of the same thing there. LOL, that was a joke, by the way. Square footage, most people, you don't come to me and say, you know, I want a 3,000 square foot house. It's mostly about how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, do you want a 2-car garage? Are you okay with the 1-car garage, basement, fenced yard, etc.? Those are the kind of things. Some people are specific that they want a 2-story home. Some are specific that they want a ranch home. Just so you know, word to the wise is if you want a ranch style home, 1-level living, there's fewer of those than 2-story, and ranches sell even a little bit faster and for more money than a 2-story home. Just again, it's all about supply and demand there. Features, you know, updated kitchen, hardwood flooring, etc. But remember, you can always make a house into a home, so you may not always necessarily get every single feature that you want in a home. Some of the search tools, if you're talking to a real estate agent and you tell us what you want, we're going to set you up in the MLS, which is the multiple listing service. And we're going to hone in on where you want to buy, your price range, and what you're looking for. Also, sometimes realtors, we know a lot of other realtors. We might know someone who has a house coming on the market soon that might fit your needs. That would be what that agent network under the MLS means there. Lots of real estate agents, we have our own websites, our own apps. You can do a search from there. Most of you guys and gals are doing your own searches, like I mentioned earlier, on Zillow, Redfin, etc., and that's fine. Yard signs and open houses, I would suggest you talk to your real estate agent about that, because you're going to drive past a sign that on a house that could have already been under contract for weeks. High-tech tools, we can set you up on automated MLS search, so when it comes on the market, you'll know about it. Real estate agents, one of the main things you do is we assist you in preparing your offer. We're going to use something called comps, or comparable properties. So we'll look at the area, you're ready, you find a house, you want to write an offer. We're going to look at the area and see what has sold there versus what that list price is, and we'll help determine where you should offer. Like Jim said, Jim, you're dead on. I always tell people sellers are getting 95, 96, sometimes even 100% of list price. It depends on the type of house, where it is, and the price. So you always want to go a little low to leave negotiation room, but you don't want to lowball not in the market that we are in. Our job as a real estate agent is we're going to present your offer to the seller's realtor, and we're going to help negotiate it back and forth. We're kind of like a middle person. Once you go under contract, that means the house is yours, but it is a process. We'll talk to you about earnest money, which it shows good faith. That's not extra money you're paying for the house. It just, it's kind of like Walmart layaway at Christmas. I'm putting down $100, but then I'm going to owe a balance on that. And we're going to help you again with referrals for home inspectors like John and attorneys. In Illinois, we use attorneys. They're worth every penny and then some, and they will work with the seller's attorney on your behalf. They'll review the contract and all the property disclosures. And they'll be with you the whole way up into and through the closing. They're the ones that are actually going to be sitting with you at the closing to go over all the paperwork. So the transaction job as a real estate agent, we are going to maintain and monitor all the dates and deadlines of the transaction, all the contingencies with your loan, a home inspector, attorney review, etc. Our job is, if you buy a house today and you want to close June 30th, everyone in the party is going to work. That is going to be the closing date, hopefully, provided there's no hiccups. But our job is to kind of go along and make sure that everything else is going smoothly. I always joke around and say I'm like a traffic light: green light, yellow light, woo, red light. But that's our job, is to keep everything moving. We're going to communicate with you. We might even over communicate with you, but there's a reason for it. So we're going to communicate with your lender as well, and your attorney, as well as the seller's realtor. The inspection process, I'll let John talk about that. Final walkthrough, that's typically done on the day of the closing. That means that you want to inspect the property to make sure it appears the same way as it did the day that you wrote the offer. All of the seller's contents are out, and that they didn't do any damage to the property, and that they left all the appliances and the window treatments that they said. And then typically we're doing that on the way to the closing. And most of the time the property's fine. Sometimes if there's a little hiccup, like something doesn't look right, now all of a sudden it doesn't seem the oven wants to preheat, we could talk about that with your attorney at the closing table and try to get you some kind of monetary value, so to speak, to help you. And then the big day, closing day. Closing day, it's what I call, it's the icing on the cake. It's what you've been working for, sometimes for months, to get to this point. We'll do the final walkthrough with you. Right now, real estate agents aren't allowed to sit at the closings just because of the pandemic, but the last few closings I've had, I'm sitting in the car waiting for my clients, because I've been with you throughout the whole process. I want to be with you there on the closing day. Again, we'll do the final walkthrough. I'll accompany you to the closing. I'll see you off. You'll sit with your real estate attorney, and then you'll get those sweet little keys. You're always going to bring identification, and attorney will tell you this, but all the parties that are on the contract must be at the closing. If one of you is not, you need to talk to your real estate attorney about that to make arrangements. You usually will have funds wired. It depends. Maybe you're selling a house or to buy, you'll close on your current house and funds would be wired to close on your new house. Again, every situation is different. And the best thing is just, you wait a little bit, you wait for the underwriter to give the final A-OK to disperse the funds, and you get the keys in your hands, and you are a happy, hopefully a happy person. Jim, how are we on time? Am I done?
We're going to go to Nicole next, so we're doing good.
Perfect.
So,
okay, should I go?
yes, please.
Okay. Why
So Lisa, did you
won't
stop
it?
sharing?
Yeah.
Lisa's
Hold
going to
on.
stop sharing.
Yep, got it. Sorry.
Okay.
That's all right, modern technology. We're getting there.
We're getting
Okay.
there.
Where is my guidebook? Of course it's not.
At the top,
That's really,
possibly.
there it is. Okay.
All right. Here we
Okay.
go. It's coming.
So my name is Nikki Lamort. I'm an operating branch manager of Cross Country Mortgage. I've been doing this for, about 20 years now. Basically what we want to just discuss with you is how buying a home can help you financially for the rest of your life, and what you need to do to get pre-approved, okay? So we're just going to start here. Obviously, it's a huge step to purchase a new home. And myself and my team will always be with you throughout the entire process. With some lenders, you kind of follow an assembly line. It's not like that with us. You know, we guide you through, you know, from start to finish. Okay. So I think the main points of buying a home is obviously it's your own home. So you have pride of ownership. You're going to build equity. And you also know what your payments are going to be for 30 years if you choose to do a 30-year or 15-year, you know, mortgage. So you won't have to worry about rates and rent increasing and fluctuating payments. The other thing is the reason why most of us own instead of renting is that we get the tax deduction. So those are kind of just the main super quick points about reasons why you might want to buy instead of rent. So now to start looking at homes, you have to get pre-approved, okay? And so the first thing that I'm going to do is just explain really quick the difference between a pre-approval versus a pre-qual, because that's kind of the question that everybody has. So a pre-qualification would be you give your information over the phone. You know, somebody says, how much money do you make? Okay, your credit score is what? Oh, it sounds like you can buy a home. And they give you a pre-qualification letter, okay? I personally don't issue pre-qualification letters. We issue pre-approval letters because we wanna vet you to make sure that you can afford, you know, and qualify for the home that you're buying, okay? So with that, we're going to have you right now fill out an online application. You know, if you need to meet face-to-face, we can do it via Zoom or something like that. I'm going to get your pay stubs, your tax returns, your W-2s, and your bank statements, or maybe a retirement statement if you're going to do a hardship withdrawal and withdraw some cash for your down payment. I'm going to review all of those documents, and then we're going to have a quick discussion about, you know, how much you can afford a month. You know, where do you want to buy? Where do you want to be? And so once we have all of those conversations, which probably total about 15 to 20 minutes, not that much, we'll get straight to the point. You're going to start, you know, shopping for your home with your agent. Okay. So what happens is we give you and your agent a pre-approval, and then you start the process to look for the home. Then once you find the home and you're under contract, you'll come back to me. Basically, I give you up for a little bit, you shop, and then what you're going to do is say, okay, I'm under contract. We're going to lock in your interest rate. We're going to order your appraisal if you need one. And we're going to submit the loan to underwriting for a final review. Our turn times right now, mine personal, are about 19 days from contract to closing, okay? Depending on your type of loan or your situation, it could take 30 days. If you do a renovation loan, it could take 45 to 60 days, okay? But we'll give you that information for the beginning so you're not left guessing throughout the process, okay? That's the one thing I wanna make sure is that all of your questions are answered, so that way you're not playing a guessing game or nervous when you're buying this first home of yours. You know, we want to make sure that you're comfortable and you're ready to purchase. All right. So once you, the underwriter is going to probably come back and ask us for a few additional things, maybe a letter of explanation. Right now, we'll want your most recent pay stub. Again, that normally wouldn't happen under different times, but now we just verify that you're currently employed one last time. And then basically the closing occurs. And so what happens at the closing is you're going to sign the final set of documents. The note, okay, the note says that you're promising to pay us back for the loan. You're going to sign a mortgage, which is our security in the property until you pay us in full. And then you're going to sign a bunch of general disclosures that you already actually signed initially once you're under contract, okay? So that generally takes anywhere from I think my record time is 15 minutes to about an hour and a half. If everything goes smooth, you know, sometimes like Lisa had mentioned, maybe your final walkthrough wasn't quite perfect. So there might be a credit being discussed at the closing. And so you know, that might take a little extra time. But it's generally when, you know, the very end of the process where everything is done relatively fast and you're out of there with your keys and you're ready to move in, and hopefully you have peeps helping you with that. Rates, I'll just touch really quick. Rates are extremely low right now. Rates depend on, just so you have an idea of this, rates are determined by your credit history, so your credit scores, the amount of money you're putting in, the amount of money you're putting down. Those are the driving factors behind interest rates, okay? So it doesn't matter what the house is worth on a purchase, it's what you're putting down in your credit scores, okay? And even if you have subpar credit right now, the rates are still in the mid threes. So rates are still great. I legally can't just like give you a rate right now. But when you get pre-approved, we will absolutely talk about rates and where you would be the day that you're pre-approved, okay? So that's pretty simple. If you have any questions, you have my number. And I can also, you know, we can email or whatever you'd like to do. But that's kind of the quick first time homebuyer 101. I hope that helped.
Nicole, that was great. I just want to reiterate and be very critically clear, which you were, but so people, you can buy a home with less than 20% down.
Correct.
With troubled credit scores, so troubled, so it depends on where you're at, but there's this misnomer out there, there's this idea that if you don't have 20% down, you can't buy. That is not true. So FHA programs, 3%, 5%, VA programs, 0% down. I mean, there are lots of programs to help get people into homes, and buying a home, owning a home is very good for families. I won't even go into those statistics, but NAR, the National Association of Realtors, can prove to you that owning property, owning a home, owning your home is very good for you, for your family, for everyone. So you should strive, my opinion, should strive. And I'm a landlord, so I tell my tenants, please try to work toward buying a home. Not that I don't like you, but it's good to buy.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And John, are you ready? We're going to bring you up and have you talk about inspections, and we'll come back and answer any questions. I don't see any right now, but we'll come back. So John, you want to take the screen back? I don't know if you're sharing a screen or are you doing, what are you doing?
I'm going to do a verbal thing. I'm not going to be as long-winded as the other.
As me.
Or you guys. Anytime you're ready, Jim, I'll go.
You're it. All
right, I'm it. Am I just good to go as is? I'm not seeing a bigger screen like you guys were on, or I'm not sharing.
Right, we were sharing a screen. You don't need to share. They're gonna have to look at us.
Go. Well,
John, you're breaking up.
The inspection process, once you find the house that you're looking for with Lisa, and you have your basic you know, where you're wanting to live and where you're wanting to go, the inspection process starts. I would recommend doing some research on radon testing and the things that are involved in the inspection process, whether you want to do them or not. Many people call me with no idea what radon is, if they want to do it, or what it's about. A simple Google search would tell you and explain a lot in that process. A lot of times you'll get information from your realtors as well, little packet, a disclosure of some sort as well. Upon booking the inspection, you'll either make that determination if you want to do that testing then or at the inspection. At the time of inspection, typically you're going to spend somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.5 to 2.5 hours at the house with the inspector. You should have a representative there. You should be hearing what the inspector is finding and seeing verbally, as well as getting the report. Difficult to put every single verbiage and line in a report. So to hear what the inspector has to say about some repairs is beneficial. just to read the report, they tend to be lengthy. The average list on a brand new construction home is around 10 to 15 line items. You're going to see that on a house that's never been lived in. Any house running older than 10 to 20 years, your list is going to almost double. You're going to have issues with that home, from GFIs not working, driveways settling, walkways settling, roofs needing to be repaired. I can't tell you how many times people have purchased a home, written a contract in the middle of the night, and have no idea there's a lake in the back of the yard. And when we get there, it's ankle deep. Big surprises. Look at the house, walk around. You know, if you're on a budget and you call me and we book an inspection, and we get there, the first thing I see is a roof that's curled up and it looks like it's ready to fall off the house. That's what you're going to see. You know, guys, look at the roof. Make sure it's at least okay. You know, a large surprise like that is kind of ironic, but it happens more than you would think. Once we move inside the house, you know, you should be looking at basically the entire home, running the house through its paces in a 2-hour window, running water through every fixture, operating every door, window, outlet that can be reached. Vacant houses, everything is reached. Attics are crawled and walked within reason. Our crawl spaces are crawled within reason. You know, our job is basically to document the house as is, take pictures, what it looks like on the time of inspection. Once that's concluded, your inspection should conclude with an overall view of the home at the end of the inspection. You know, answering any questions that you may have at that point. And through the process, those all should be answered as well. Every time there's an issue, you will be taken to that issue and shown it, explained it, and made to understand what will be involved in repairing such a thing. Then a report will be generated by the next business day, and that should include digital pictures of the structure, of any significant issues, and outlining those. At that point, you're going to be then heading off to your lawyer, and that is basically your negotiation team. I'm your documenting team. Your lawyer and your realtor will be negotiating those things for you. That's not my job. My job is to document the house. Their job is to work those issues through with you. And then at that process and time, you're actually done with the inspection process, other than a radon that may run a little extra time or length. And that would be it. Thank you.
Thanks, John. That was good. So you're looking at the systems of the home. Does that make sense? Or what's your primary focus?
Primary focus is to document the home. A home inspector's job is to go over the entire home and document it. That's the job in a nutshell. People think that the home inspection is a lot of screwdrivers and hammers, and no, our job is to document its current condition. We're not to embellish. It's, you know, it is what it is.
So what do you do when you go into a property and you see something that's a potential issue?
Well, potential issues are rated in different classifications. There's health and safety issues, which would be termed more of an action required. There's attention issues, some caulking issues, even though a caulking issue could be a larger issue down the line, rotting some wood or a home. It's all situational as well within an inspection.
So what does your license cover?
As far as?
So are you an
What do you-
electrician? Are you a plumber?
Well, we are a generalist, meaning that a home inspection is not a code inspection. We know what a house is, but no, we're not an electrician. We are not plumbers. We're not roofers. We are trained to evaluate the condition of a home. We also know how to install, or let's say how a roof is installed. I can also install a roof. I'm older. I don't do that any longer. But I could point my finger and show how it's done. So yes, we do not code inspect. You cannot put an 1850 house in the same code district as a 2000 house being built. So there are differences in many homes.
So I don't know if Lisa wants this one instead, but so I'm sure, and I remember from my days of selling real estate, that a buyer would come through and say, oh, my uncle's a contractor. I want to bring my uncle through to take a look at the property. He's going to do the inspection. John, do you want to address that? Or Lisa, maybe? I'm thinking John first, perhaps, and Lisa, if necessary.
You know, I can address some of that. As an inspector, I do a lot of inspections for contractors. Contractors are excellent. They know code. They know more than I in that specific field. However, a contractor is not a generalist. Typically, a contractor does not have a background in electrician and plumbing and the like to address a full and a complete inspection. That individual typically could address an HVAC system well or a roof well, but they may not address the entire shell well. That's where we come in. That's where our experience comes in over the contractor. Now, there are general contractors that most likely would be able to address these issues. However, they're not licensed to document it, and you wouldn't be able to address those issues, I believe, through a lawyer and as a licensed home inspector would be.
Lisa, you want to add to that?
I sure will. John hit the nail on the head. So I've had many buyers, oh, I want to bring Uncle Jim with. Great, bring him. You could bring Uncle Jim, but if you don't have a licensed professional inspector per the sales contract, you go back and ask for anything that I'm not an attorney, but I know these contracts well. This is what I do for a living. You are not going to get anything out of the seller. So bring Uncle Jim with, but also bring John with. And as far as negotiating things, it depends. Again, I'm not an attorney, but per the sales contract, anything of a health or safety issue really should be addressed by the seller. Let's just say your furnace and AC is 22 years old. If it's running and seems to be doing its job, that doesn't mean that the seller is going to replace the AC unit, replace the furnace, or even give you a credit. All of that is technically really negotiated between the seller's attorney and the buyer's attorney. But I'm usually telling my buyers I'm on the inspection and I know what's going on. So as soon as I'm out of that house, I'm talking to my buyers and saying, here's the big things. This is what you should address. And John did talk about radon testing. Radon in this general area can be high. So I encourage all my buyers to have a radon test. It's maybe $200. And I've got a transaction right now. Thank God he had it done, because now that seller's got to put radon mitigation in. And some of these systems can cost anywhere between $1,000. And I had a seller once that had to pay $3,500. So again, look up radon. It's a colorless, odorless gas. It causes lung cancer. But if you have a radon mitigation system, you don't have to worry about anything. And John mentioned about a roof. If you're, and especially Nicole, you know, if you're an FHA buyer, there's a different appraisal process that goes on. Same if you're VA, and if you've served in our nation, by the way, thank you for your service. But VA, FHA buyers, your appraisal process isn't going to look just at what the value of the home should be. They're going to look at things like GFI outlets, the age and condition of the roof, etc. So there we have that. Anything else you can feel free to ask.
I think I'm good with the home inspection stuff. Nicole, I want to jump back to you for a second if you want to unmute. So can you tell us what are typical fees that would go into the home buying process, and just maybe ballpark a percentage, or what fees are involved?
So the fees that you would pay upfront, as far as on the lending side of it, is you'd have to pay for your appraisal, which is roughly about $450, depending on the property. And then you have to pay an underwriting fee. And then you have to set up your escrow account for your taxes and insurance if you choose to escrow. And then you have title fees. So the cost really, you know, I would probably say like out the door, it's probably about $5,000, you know, just because title's about $3,000 now. You know, by the time and then the $450 for the appraisal and, you know, another $1,000 for lender costs. So, you know, you're close to 5,000 there. So, I do have a lot of clients though, who are, you know, asking for the seller to pay some of their costs for them. So if you can come up with your down payment, you know, 3% or 3.5%, but maybe you need a little help with your closing costs. It's totally depends on the property. So it's definitely a conversation that you have to have with your agent, like Lisa. You know, sometimes you can, depending on what you offer for the property, ask that the seller cover your costs for you as well.
Lisa, do you want to jump on that too? You want to unmute?
So like Nicole just said, many times my FHA buyers, if you're putting down 3.5%, let's just say you need to you need help from the seller to bring $3,000 to the table to help offset your costs. I can help work with you and negotiate that. Most sellers are totally agreeable to that, but of course, if a seller has a house listed for $200,000, they think they could sell it for $195,000. That doesn't mean they're going to sell it for $195,000 plus give the buyer $3,000. That means you might have to go up to $198,000, ask for the $3,000 to get you to that $195,000 number. That's all negotiable. I do it all the time. And what did, I also want to say, how much does it cost to use a real estate agent when you're working, when you're a buyer? Sellers pay the real estate commission in the state of Illinois. So if you're working with the realtor, there's no cost to you. Hopefully you're going to work with the realtor and stick with us. We're going to show you the right home, negotiate and get you all the way through. But there should be no cost to you. So
I want to jump on that second, but up on the screen, I put a slide just for people to look at. It's kind of an overview. But so Lisa, so why should a buyer contact multiple agents in order to be able to see all the inventory?
Okay, well, I have worked with people who they'll call a listing agent or they'll find an agent on Zillow, and there's thousands of great real estate agents all over the state of Illinois. But it's always best to work with one realtor because we're going to get to really tone in to what your needs are, what your wants are. If you're calling a real estate agent, you know, one day, some realtors don't work on Sundays, some are part-time. But, you know, I have a conversation up front with my clients. What's your availability? You know, I'm a full-time realtor, most of us are, but it's so much easier to, I know personally, I would much rather just have one person, you get to know them. I mean, why make the extra 2 and 3 calls and get to know that person's personality? If you find a real estate agent off from the beginning and you feel comfortable with them, why not work with them?
Absolutely. And I would just add to that as well. I would just add to that as well that using multiple agents doesn't save you time. It doesn't show you more property. The MLS is the place, the multiple listing service is the location where almost all of the homes in the area are listed. Yes, there are some for sale by owners, but that's a small percentage. And oftentimes those are more difficult sellers to work with anyway. That's a whole different story.
Oh.
So using multiple agents, yes?
Might I add something very important here, because this has really become a hot trend lately, and it's only in the multiple listing service. You're not going to find it available for sale on Zillow. It's called the Private Listing Network. And what's going on with the pandemic. I mean, things are a little bit different now, but there are many sellers who say, you know what, I really want to sell my home, but I don't want, 5 showings in one day. And they may choose, and sellers are choosing, not just in McHenry, but all over the area, Lake County, everywhere, that they might want their listing. They want to sell their house and the process is the same, but it's going to be in the private listing network. And that is only located within the multiple listing service. So if you're looking for a home on your own on Zillow, there may be a home out there for you that you may not be able to see.
You need an agent is the point in order to access the properties, and especially the private listing network. And to Lisa's point, COVID and the pandemic, a lot of sellers had put their homes in the private listing side because they want to reduce the number of public showings to property. Nicole, online on Facebook, there's a question about down payment assistance. We're kind of running out of time, but I'd like to have you cover that briefly, if you could, please.
Sure. The state of Illinois has a loan program called IDA, and they offer down payment assistance via a grant or a payback program. And you can get up to 4% of the purchase price as a grant, or up to $10,000 as, paying it back when you sell your home. That's kind of the gist of it. You have to qualify for the grants. So it's probably a topic that you should call me about for the sake of time. They come with a little bit higher of an interest rate than the going rate. And the closing costs are a little bit higher as well. But it's dependent on your credit score. There's income limits, and there's a limit to the amount of money that you can spend on a home. So those are the main qualifying factors. So your credit score, how much money you make, determines whether you can qualify or not.
And there's money available now?
There is money available, correct.
What kind of money, ballpark?
Like, how much does IDA have?
How much could a buyer potentially get?
Oh, up to 10,000.
Okay, thanks. Oops, did I just get rid of that slide? All right, I understand there's a question in the chat box. I'm having trouble pulling the chat box up for some reason. There we go. Down payment assistance, good. How do I qualify for the grant? Did you cover that, I think? So I know we're really out of time, and there's probably lots of other questions. So I did have up on the screen, and it's currently on our Facebook Live. Well, I guess it just went down. So if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to us, any of the presenters or myself here at the Association of Realtors. We are not a real estate office. We simply assist the real estate agents throughout the county. So we are here to be a resource mostly to real estate agents, but also to the public. So we welcome your questions, and thank you, presenters. Thank you for taking time out of your day. Rosie posted earlier that we do have a seminar, a session tomorrow night as well for sellers. So it'll be similar, but certainly different. So again, thank you, Lisa, Nicole, John. I appreciate your time, and thank you all for joining us tonight, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks again.
Go on, guys.
Thank you.
Well, it looks like the recording's over. Why did the recording stop? Rosie, you still with me? Rosie? Hey, Rosie.
Oh, sorry, I was muted on Zoom.
Ah, gotcha. Did you see the recording going up? I just went to turn it off and it showed that it wasn't on, but I did hit it to start.
I did not see it. I thought maybe because I wasn't a panelist.
No, you should have seen it too.
Oh.
Okay, thank you. Here, okay.
Is there no way to go back and record after?
No. I just lost that all. Oh,
It's
that's
still live on Facebook.
Hey, Madeline, I don't know. You had raised your hand, I think. Do you want to talk? You're allowed to. Madeline, why can't it unmute Madeline now? Did she drop off? I guess you did. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for being online with us. I think it went well. I appreciate you being there because it was helpful to have you monitoring. Like I say, it's
happy to
tough
help.
to do. Did you see any numbers? I see there's still 4 eyeballs online.
Facebook was up to like 6 or 7 at one point.
Looks like I'm still live on Facebook. How does that end? Stop share. Stop share. I did that. Now what do I do?